The Spelunkery mod revamps tool progression, populates the underground with new landmarks and points of interest, and provides novel and useful tools to improve exploration in Minecraft. So, let's begin. We'll start by taking a look at some of the changes the mod makes to the base game. Some ores have had their drops changed to expand the progression related to material processing. Redstone, lapis, emerald, and diamond ores have had their drops changed to be rough cinnabar, rough lazurite, rough emeralds, and rough diamonds respectively. The deep slate variants of all ores now have a chance to drop additional items when mined. Metal ores drop raw nuggets and gem ores drop rough shards. The random patchy blobs of granite, andesite, diorite, dirt and gravel have been disabled. In their place, large strips of these blocks generate instead for a given region. There will randomly be one of the three stone types. Occasionally a region will have no secondary stone at all. Below y equals 0, tuff will generate in place of the other three stone types. Up to 20 blocks below the surface, dirt, coarse dirt and gravel will generate instead. Mineshafts will now contain dust piles. Some corridors are full of dust and rarely a dust bunny spawner. The crevice type carvers from the experimental world-gen snapshots have been re-implemented into Spelunkery with their shapes slightly tweaked. Lodestones now have an alternate recipe, using a magnetite block instead of netherite. Slimes can now spawn underground outside of slime chunks, and they spawn more frequently the lower down in the world you are. Right-clicking a damaged anvil with an iron ingot will repair it by one stage. Nether portals now play sound effects upon creation and destruction. The obsidian in nether portal frames now have a chance to randomly become crying obsidian when the portal they comprise of is destroyed. A bottle of dimensional tears can be used to ignite a nether portal. Sculk blocks now drop sculk veins when mined with shears. Sculk blocks can now be crafted out of sculk veins. The vanilla recovery compass is crafted with echo shards, and a compass that points to your most recent death point will no longer drop from your inventory when you die. Instead, it stays in your inventory, allowing you to immediately track your death point. Next, we'll look at some of the resources added by the mod. Iron, gold, and copper metals now all have raw nuggets. Copper now has a nugget which can be obtained from copper ingots or smelting a raw copper nugget. The deep slate version of each of the metals will drop a few extra raw nuggets when mined, incentivizing mining deep underground. Nether gold ore now drops raw gold nuggets. Lapis lazuli, emeralds, and diamonds each can be crafted into 9 of their respective shards, making shards function like nuggets. Gem shards also have rough versions like the gems and gem blocks do, which can be polished and crafted into rough gems. Much like the metal ores, the deep slate variants of the gem ores will occasionally drop extra rough shards when mined. Quartz also has a rough shard and block. Coal and charcoal can be crafted into 8 lumps of coal or charcoal briquettes, respectively. They both smelt 1 item each. Lumps of coal can drop from deep slate coal ore. Charcoal briquettes can be obtained by smelting or blasting certain food items. Pebbles come in 6 types: cobblestone, deep slate, netherrack, basalt, blackstone, and endstone. 9 pebbles can be crafted from their respective stone type, and 9 of them can be made back into that stone type. They can be thrown like snowballs, and if they hit an entity, they will knock it back but not deal damage. The vanilla gemstone ores have had their drops changed to rough versions, similar to the raw versions with metal ores. Lapis lazuli ore will drop rough lazurite, and redstone ores drop rough cinnabar. You can use them on a grindstone to polish them into their refined states. You can grind any rough shard, gem or block and always receive the proportional amount of XP and items. Some gems create additional byproducts when ground. Shift right clicking an entire stack of rough materials on a grindstone will polish the entire stack and create the appropriate amount of byproduct. Lazurite is 0 to 2 gold nuggets. Diamonds and emeralds can only be ground on a diamond grindstone crafted with rough diamond shards and deep slate. The diamond grindstone retains all functionality of the normal grindstone, including polishing other rough gems. It has the additional ability to grind curse enchantments off of items. Each time you polish something with a diamond grindstone, there is a 5% chance it will increase its depleted level by 1. Once a diamond grindstone reaches depleted 3, it can no longer polish rough diamonds or emeralds. Shift right clicking a depleted diamond grindstone with a rough diamond shard will restore it by 1 depletion stage at a time. In addition to the stone and deep slate ores found in vanilla, Spelunkery provides variants of each gold ore for granite, andesite, diorite, and tuff. These ores function the same as their traditional counterparts. Granite, andesite, and diorite share properties with stone, while tuff is more similar to deep slate. These ores will generate underground wherever an ore deposit intersects with any of the stone type variants. Spring water is a rare resource that only generates in the highest mountain tops. It has natural healing properties, but it cannot be made into an infinite source. When a magma block is placed below it, it will attempt to boil upward through the ceiling. If there are natural blocks in its way, it will burrow until it breaks into the surface above. Sulfur is a yellow powder that can be made into a block or placed as layers. It can be obtained in the nether in patches on the shores of soul sand valleys. It can be used to craft gunpowder. Saltpeter is a white powder that can be made into a block or placed as layers. It can be obtained in a sluice by washing clay through water or passively from spring water. It can be used to craft bone meal, gunpowder, or dry rotten flesh into leather. Salt is a mineral that can take several different forms, including a powder, a crystal, and multiple blocks. Its raw and crystalline forms can be found naturally in stripes and clusters at high elevations in mountainous biomes. Mining raw salt blocks will give you rock salt items that can be crafted into blocks. Grinding rock salt on a grindstone will give you salt in powder form. Rock salt can also be created by throwing powdered salt into a bucket of water placed above a fire or campfire. Salt can be placed on the ground in the form of piles and lines. Salt is impassable to undead creatures, enabling you to trap them by encircling them with salt. Salt can be washed away by flowing water. Salt will dissolve if exposed to rain. If it is on top of grass or mycelium when it dissolves, it will convert the block it's on into coarse dirt. Salt can also be used to cure rotten flesh into leather. Smelting a bucket of water in a furnace or combining a bucket with 8 salt will produce a bucket of salt. Buckets of salt can be used to place down 8 piles of salt. 9 salt can be crafted together to make a block that acts like sand. You can craft salt rocks into various building blocks, including polished, brick, and all the slab and stair variants. Rock salt can also be used to make a salt lamp. This is a light that's toggleable by right click that can be placed on the ground or hung from the ceiling. When any rock salt block is adjacent to a light source block, it will become illuminated. Illumination will be transferred to all adjacent rock salt blocks within a distance the same as the strength of the original light source. Illuminated salt blocks emit a comparator output equal to the distance from the nearest light source. Magnetite generates very rarely in special forms of large iron veins. In the nether, it generates in balls surrounded by lava and deep slate iron, encased in a shell of obsidian. Magnetic compasses are drawn towards it, even if placed by a player. Raw magnetite can be found in chunks and in nuggets. The nuggets are rarely dropped by deep slate and tough iron ore. The raw magnetite can be used to craft many utilities. The magnetic compass always points north and displays the player's current X and Z coordinates when right-clicked. Its magnetism can be interfered with if there is a strong magnetic field nearby, caused by raw magnetite blocks. If there is a raw magnetite block within 128 blocks, the compass will point toward it instead of north. The item magnet is crafted from magnetite chunks and cinnabar. When activated by right-click, nearby items are pushed towards the player. If placed in an item frame, nearby items will be drawn toward it if active. Nephrite is a dark green stone found in small boulders deep underground, encased by tough and surrounding something more sinister in its core. It can be crafted into various useful components. Carved nephrite is able to store experience inside itself in the form of charge, which it will equalize among neighboring carved nephrite. Charge will always prioritize flowing downwards before checking to the side, so keep that in mind when designing a storage vessel. Think of it like there's fluid inside of the block. Each block of carved nephrite can store 100 charge, which is just over 7 levels if you start from 0. Nephrite siphons are used to convert XP into charge by draining XP from players that stand on it or absorbing nearby XP orbs. Nephrite fountains drain the charge from carved nephrite it is placed on and convert it into XP orbs when it is powered with a redstone signal. If a nephrite fountain is adjacent to charged, carved nephrite, it can be right-clicked with a glass bottle and the charge will be exchanged for a bottle of XP. Nephrite diodes take 1 charge from the carved nephrite behind it and transfer it into the carved nephrite in front of it whenever it receives a redstone signal. Diodes can be placed in any direction, so the most useful thing they can do is transfer charge vertically upward. Diodes can be pushed by pistons, unlike the other components. A redstone clock is required to make the best use of a diode, as it only transfers 1 charge when it receives a signal. The fluid known as dimensional tears can be found in a few forms, but they generally have the same properties. When an entity comes into contact with the tears, they are teleported to their point of origin. For players, that is their respawn point. For players with an unset point and all other entities, that is the world spawn. The bottle O-dimensional tears can be obtained by using an empty bottle on crying obsidian or on a respawn anchor charged with glowstone. If you obtain the bottle from a charged respawn anchor, it will teleport you back to that anchor when drunk, regardless if your spawn is set there or not. Drinking a bottle from anywhere else will return you to your spawn point. Using a bottle on a hollow frame of obsidian of adequate size will open a portal to the nether. You can empty and fill cauldrons with bottles O-dimensional tears. You will always find one bottle of dimensional tears in each ruined portal loot chest. The bucket of dimensional tears can be obtained by using an empty bucket on a cauldron full of dimensional tears. Emptying the bucket into the world will create a fluid that emits light and teleports you to your spawn point on contact. Holding shift will prevent you from being teleported. Buckets can be used to fill and empty cauldrons. The cauldron of dimensional tears can be emptied and filled using bottles or buckets. Falling into a full cauldron will teleport you to your spawn point and reduce the level of fluid in the cauldron by 1. Next, we'll look at the plants and fungi added by the mod. Conch fungus can spawn on logs, on the surface, walls in near-surface caves, and in abandoned mineshafts. It's a source of wood while in caves, interchangeable with wood planks in most recipes. It will become a giant if bone mealed. Ink cap mushrooms spawn on cave floors everywhere. Pale ink caps generate below y=0. They are often found in patches with red and brown mushrooms in caves. Huge variants are included. They are used to craft black and white dye respectively and can be bone mealed to become giant. They can spread slowly over time like red and brown mushrooms. Phosphor fungi and mush glooms will grow on walls and the ground in caves below y=0. They are used to craft glow sticks, an alternative to glow ink sacks. Dirt and mycelium patches will generate just below the surface. Huge portabellas appear in dark forests. They start as a button mushroom and grow into crimini, and then finally the portabella. All growth stages can be eaten for various effects. Portabellas can be cooked. They can spread slowly over time like red and brown mushrooms, but the new ones that appear are always button mushrooms. Millie bubcap are quite rare but can appear anywhere underground. They can stack up to 8 bubs in a single block, similar to candles or sea pickles. They will become a patch of huge bubcaps if a stack of 8 bubs is bone mealed. Sporophytes and tall sporophytes are a lusher, greener replacement for grass and tall grass generation in moss patches. Tangle roots are climbable roots that appear under dirt, overhangs, on or near the surface. They are used to create rope ladders. Slime ranching is a new aspect added by this mod. Slimes are now able to eat beetroots and raw chicken. Slimes of any size can be hand-fed beetroot or raw chicken by shift right-clicking them with the food. When fed, slimes have a chance to produce slime balls. The larger the slime, the more slime balls they produce each time they are fed. Slimes also have the ability to eat raw chicken or beetroot dropped on the ground near them. When eating passively, the same rule applies about slime ball production. The larger the slime, the more it produces. However, they now also have a chance to increase their size by 1 stage each time they eat passively up to a configurable size, 5 by default. Additionally, passive feeding has a 30-second cooldown between each time a slime is able to eat. When a player has the regeneration potion effect active, no slime of any size will be able to damage you. Tossing a slime block into a full cauldron of water will consume all of the water and summon a new baby slime. And finally, we're going to look at the utilities added by the mod. Rope ladders are crafted from tangle roots and are a useful tool for ascending and descending large gaps. Rope ladders have the ability to be placed like scaffolding, extending downwards when right-clicking them with another, and the ability to be automatically retracted one by one by right-clicking the top ladder. When they are extended downward, it is possible for them to be supported by only the ladder above it, meaning that it doesn't need a block behind it like vanilla ladders. Wooden rails can be placed similar to scaffolding in the sense that depending on the direction you face, their placement will continue down the rail line. Wooden rails can also extend over air gaps without support, making them ideal for crossing ravines. Minecarts traveling across wooden rails will shake slightly as it is a rickety ride. The parachute is an item crafted from string and wool that when you hold in your inventory will automatically deploy and slow your fall if it detects you've fallen far enough that you will take significant fall damage when you land. The parachute needs to be folded back up once you land in order for it to be ready to catch you if you fall again. Channels can be crafted from wood or stone bricks and honeycomb. Water, when flowing over the top of a channel, will only be able to flow over the sides that are open. To toggle whether a side of a channel is open or closed, right-click that face with an axe or pickaxe depending on if it's made of wood or stone. Sluices are a special type of channel that has an internal inventory of 9 slots, and when fluids flow over the top of them, they generate items depending on the type of fluid. Additionally, certain items can be sent through the sluice when it has a fluid flowing through it, and that item will be sluiced to produce certain items. For example, sluicing dirt through water can produce pebbles or seeds. Glow sticks are a light source that can be placed on any surface or thrown like a snowball, placing itself wherever it lands. They can be thrown and placed underwater. Glow sticks also come in all 16 colors plus the glow ink hue, making them ideal for marking out pathways to different locations. The depth meter crafted with copper and redstone tells you your current elevation without making you rely on the F3 menu. The magnetic compass always points north and displays the player's current X and Z coordinates when right-clicked. Its magnetism can be interfered with if there is a strong magnetic field nearby, which can be caused by magnetite blocks. If there is a magnetite block within 128 blocks, the compass will point towards that instead of north. It's crafted by combining a compass and a magnetite chunk in a smithing table. The item magnet is crafted from magnetite chunks and cinnabar. When activated by right click, it draws nearby items towards the player. The tuning fork is crafted from amethyst and copper. When activated by right click, it will attempt to detect any amethyst geode nearby. If successful, it will point toward the geode that was located and vibrate faster the closer you get to the geode. Right click with the echo fork to detect and highlight all living entities within a configurable range. Shift right click to clear the glow effect. Using the fork has a cooldown of 30 seconds. It can be found in ancient city chests or crafted with echo shards, skulk veins and iron. Hammer and chisels can be crafted from flint or obsidian, determining their durability and mining level. They are used by holding down right click like a bow until the block you are pointing at breaks. They can only break blocks that are usually mined with a pickaxe that are also within the mining tier of your hammer and chisel. The item they drop is what the block would drop if mined by a tool with silk touch. If you crouch while holding right click, it will convert it to its chiseled form if it has one. If it doesn't, it will break like normal. Minomite is crafted with paper, clay and gunpowder. Minomite can be placed down on the ground or thrown. When primed with a flint and steel, it will become ignited and explode after a few seconds. Up to 9 minomite can be placed in the space of one block. The more sticks in one block, the larger an explosion it will create. When thrown, the minomite will place against whatever block it hits. If thrown while flint and steel is held in the offhand, the minomite will explode upon contact with any surface. The compression blast miner is crafted with netherite, iron and obsidian. The compression blast miner, or CBM, is the directional block that you can prime by right clicking it with TNT. Powering the CBM once primed will initiate an explosion directed at whatever block the CBM is facing. The explosion created by the CBM is strong enough to break nearly any block, including bedrock. That will do it for the Spelunkery mod. It's available to download in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.